So we're going to sit in front of our bolster, and this is a very kind of clear beginning for spine centering, but also easy hip opening, right? So the path forward in this practice today for your practice would be to sit in front of the bolster and feel when you hold onto your ankles pre-propping, and feel when your hips are back and your seat is wide, right? So you have a feeling that the knees are in a motion outwards and the seat is in a wider pattern. And I want to suggest that when you slide your feet closer towards the groins, that you keep it a rather kind of mediocre cobbler shape. So it's not pulling your feet as close in. So that when we put our blocks under our legs right now, you know, I really suggest that it's a little bit more courteous to the juncture at the knee. Okay, simple science. So we'll take our belt, we got it buckled up, it's in a loop. Place it overhead, around your waist, and then forward over feet. Tighten down so that you have your buckle, so it's easy access to your hands, okay? So we're gonna add our sandbag, and I want you to have your sand to start today so it feels like your feet are really joined. So you'll have your feet, basically the outer piece from the little toe to the heel is touching, and then with that sand across, we're going to guide our spines back, and then as your spine centers, and as the feet, for some of you, may be feeling a little farther forward than the practice normally has, it's a little bit more back strengthening work. Okay, so for most of us, having the blocks a little higher and contoured, kind of tilt them, is helpful. If you don't have blocks, you can use pillows, like little small pillows are really nice for this one. And the belt needs to be secure so that when you lower your brain back, you can feel the arch of the waist, which is via the spine. And then let the ribs kind of slowly peel opening and feel your arms resting beside you. Let the hands relax so they feel a mild curling. And let the eye gaze internalize so that the feeling of moving your eyes from top to bottom is simply an experience of softening the face and feeling the breath center inside of you. Feeling where the breath is inside the center span, maybe it's relative to your heart or the belly. And experiencing both centers of gravity for the body. Maybe the belly seems to be the obvious center of gravity because it's at the pelvic area. But the heart, oftentimes when you are emphasizing yourself, right, you point towards the heart space. So feeling the breath, keep it very physiological, inhaling through the nose and relaxing along the mouth, letting go. Inhaling, slow, let it be a centering breath for a few more moments. Pure and simple, guided by the spine centered, the arch of the back, and the walls of the chest opening. Now, as we move our arms up from the floor so they hover, and then feel that reach of both arms back, and as the arms are stretching our chest, our pec muscles have a wide stance. I want you to try to stay with that for a few moments where you're strengthening right into these front reserves of the body. Really the strength work is in the breathing practice when you're holding up the arms. But feeling that you're squeezing the shoulder blades towards the bolster. So I want you to have a simple practice where your arms are elevated. And it suggests like you're really expanding your ribs and the chest walls. And then reach the arms back together at the hands, interlace, and turn the palms so that as the arms reach, you feel a little bit more of kind of a slender, more narrow span in your core body. Right? The one prior was expansive, the ribs were pushing and the shoulders towards the bolster. Now you might feel the shoulders kind of straighten out in the back. Okay, now let's try this. We'll bring our arms so they're interlacing at the hands and pushing towards the ceiling above the heart. Stretch the right deltoid via reaching the left hand for the right elbow and crossing the right arm front of the collarbones. Now feel if you can maintain that touch with the left hand just above the right elbow. It doesn't have to be all the way to the shoulder. Stop. It might be somewhere between the shoulder and the elbow. And massage that space a little bit back and forth. Feel when you massage it towards the elbow and feel when you massage it towards the shoulder. Yeah, they're both important and ports of movement for the fluids, right? For feeling how to release your shoulders and your neck and upper back. Okay, now when we change sides, I want you to feel the elbow stretch open like it's a full body yawn. And then change side, right hand to left elbow, cross it, connecting, and feeling the suppleness of your upper back. Yeah, it's a little supple when you hold onto your left elbow and you feel just above the elbow. See if you can feel that territory of skin and connective tissue and massage it a little back and forth. Now, if the left arm starts to lift and you can feel the connective tissue in different channels of the arm to the shoulder, stay with that, massage that. It's kind of nice to get a little bit of this press into the skin cells, right? A little bit of jostling the tissues. And then as you bring the hands back together, interlacing the fingers, reach the arms back, feel the extension of the inhale, and then try to let the belly fill up. And as you exhale, feel the belly draw towards the spine and move the hands to reach at the buckle, unbuckle. And then as you start to guide your blocks a little bit besides the legs, you're going to scoot your knees in and kind of shuffle them towards your seat. Still stay reclining, not coming up, so that our spine is continuing to warm up. So it's important that when we make the transitions that you try to stay with that position. And we'll keep it, keeping the spine arching is what I mean. Keep the reach of the ribs. And then step the left foot, lift it up and cross it to the right knee and grab the grippy ball or a block, either one. And you're going to place one of those objects at the top of the outer right thigh. And I want you to let the body lean and go a little bit back and forth, like you're almost windshield wipering. But the windshield wiper pattern is just purely from thigh top to the knee. Right, so the thigh top to the knee is what's tilting both directions. You have that leg crossed over, and then get that ball so it's established at the side of the right thigh, high up, so it's at the attachment to the hip. Make sure it's high enough up so that you can smush the ball or the block. Reach for the left knee with the right hand and relax your left hand. And pull the left knee with the right hand. So truly guide the hip surface to kind of slide and glide. So we're working our way in towards conveniently into the hips and the glutes interconnected. And some days this might feel a little spicier than others. Just depends on your, not your taste buds, but your body buds, how they feel. So feel when you're pulling the leg across, or when you move it towards you, find the kind way for your knee. Holding on to it is not a bad idea. It's like you're protecting it. You got your knee guard on. Okay, now from this pattern, we're going to move the leg back to center, and then as you uncross, go directly to the second side, right foot to left leg, move the ball to the left upper outer leg and or the hip, and lean into it. Let the left thigh crush the ball or the block. And feel when you hold on to the right knee that there is a resistance with the knee and the hand. So if I adapt this position and pull the whole time, kind of losing on some tracks in strengthening around the ligaments in my hip. So try to let the hand, actually the knee, push a little bit into your left hand so it's almost pushing away. Yeah, last time we didn't do any complicated extras like this one, but feeling, and you can always back up and repeat the first side again just for experience. But feeling the right exterior thigh up where it meets the hip, where it meets the glutes. Simply centering the belly movement. Now with the hips pretty warm, both sides, we're going to keep that heat in the hips as we move into a core strengthener. And today they're kind of level with 3 different ranges of core strengthening that will add something new to it today. So when you let go of the knee, we're going to uncross and then place a block or a ball between the knees. If you have a ball, use the ball. Okay. So squeeze the ball or whatever object you're using. Cantaloupe. Okay. So push in and be sure that your feet are not turning in. You know, they kind of get a little footsie on this one. Try to keep the feet forwarding and forwarding feet. So we're trying to forward our upper body soon enough. So since it's backward and it's getting pretty content here, before we get to doze off on it, we're going to get up. What I want you to do is reach your hands back overhead. Okay, feel the arch, and first thing, squeeze into the ball, and then as you move up, squeeze, squeeze, squeeze. Feel that roundness in the back. Feel how the belly probably has a little bit of a bulge pattern in this position. I want you to go back again with the arms and your brain, so everything lies back down again. If you stop squeezing the ball, that's okay. It is relatively repetitive instruction today on this part. So when in doubt, squeeze the ball. Bring your arms forwards again, and this time feel what it's like for you to curl up. Now curling up could really be curling up, like you're really curling into a cannonball shape for this one. Now slide the hands under the thighs so the hands hold back of the legs, and then scoot your feet forward. If you've got a sandbag there, you can either actually put on your feet or just push it aside. If you have your feet in a wide enough stance, it might fit. It will help out. Maybe if you want to try that. So squeeze into the ball and work your way towards sitting upright and leaning back. And I want us to try the visualization of, maybe you can visualize that the legs are actually up in the air. Okay. Some of the body awareness patterns, you have to like to actually visualize that, which you're not going to be able to see in the Zoom, the visualization. So when you lean back and you come forward, you're visualizing as if the legs were up, is what I'm trying to explain. So just visualize that, although the hip flexors aren't going to have to get that angst. So as you move back, okay, squeeze the ball, bring your arms open out to the sides, turn right, reach your right hand back to the blanket on top of the bolster, left arm outside the right leg, and create that rotation. Squeeze the ball. An obvious instruction for today. So I'm getting the waistband to kind of slide and turn. Squiggly waist. Okay, now as you come forward, go right to the second side, right arm outside that left leg, left hand back, and try to squeeze the ball. This way it allows the knees to stay right across from each other so that you're activating the muscles on the inner thighs. Strengthening the low back of the waist. Come back center, and then remove the ball and hold the back of the legs. Draw the feet in, and then kick up the feet. For a moment, lower the feet down, lift up the spine, inhale, and exhale when you lean back, then kick up the feet. They can go straight with the legs, or they can be in a right angle. Okay, last time, we're gonna lower the feet down, lift up through the waist. Okay, now as you bring your hands back, that was the last time, I want you to slide the belt aside if it's right next to your hips, and then turn to the right. We're going to start with the sleeping sage first, okay? So if you like the ball on the inside of the left knee when you twist, this one will have no sand, so even if you are a sand-happy person with the sand usage, just pass on it for right now. That way the pose timing will be a little bit shorter, but a little bit more key here. So that means that the side sage, you might add the sand, but not the sleeping sage. So the bolster is as so, and when you turn, since the bolster is lengthwise, you're going to lower your head, turning your head to the left, right side of your head on the blanket, and then feel your arms hug into the bolster a little bit. So feel how the recent twists in our lives, especially in this last few yoga poses, we'll just be in the present here with it. So the twist that we took, rotating when we're sitting, this will be a kind of an afterthought, just feeling the spine, feel the twist, and it must be easier to be in a twist this way. When you're in a little bit of a side bend and a forward bend, a prone pose. Maybe let your eyes close for about 5 more breaths, maybe a little more than that. Feel the suppleness starting to increase in the spine. And now scan the feel of the hip, the right hip. So you're weight bearing into that. So now since the left thigh is kind of the mover, it can move a little bit in this pose transition. I encourage you to try to keep the thighs similar when we go to side sage. Any little movements you need to do that is essential to get yourself to transition is fine. But as we lower our hands down, kind of feel how the waist is turned. And then when we push and come up, it's best to have the bolster across. So I want you to just grab your bolster, turn it horizontally. And then with your blanket stack, you can place your blankets in a quarter fold. It's best that you unroll your blanket. It's just a second or two to do that. And then with the blanket stacked in a quarter fold, we could take our sand on this one. We could have a block overhead. That seems to be responsible posing, to have all these settings. And you certainly can add your sand to your exterior left hip. But grab onto this bolster with your right arm, but also your ribs. So you kind of learn how to sit like this kind of mermaid style to get into the shape. You're kind of letting your side do the walking, right? Your ribs. They kind of crawl over the bolster, kind of a rib crawl, all right? And then once they get kind of snagged on the bolster, yeah, you can use the ball on the inside of the leg. Sometimes you can get pretty tricky and get your right foot to help move it around. Creativity with feet. Sand is an option on the side, not required. Now, if the blankets feel like they're just too low and you got pretty high up on the ribs and it's kind of a bummer, your head's tilted down this much, you'll want to have your blanket a little higher. Substantially enough that it kind of measures this support of your ribs for your neck, about the same height feeling, maybe a tiny bit lower. So then when that left arm stretches overhead or goes behind you, kind of play with the connection through the spine here. So feel the block overhead, feel what works for you height-wise. Feel your head kind of burrow into the blanket. And then go on with that length. Spend some motions to feel if the left leg needs to change. Because the stretches of the arm and the leg really will affect the reality of the joints, the shoulder and the knee joint. So feel if you can gather feeling of the leg stretching, the hip stretching, and the shoulder joint opening. To equalize the sensations with breath on the in-breath and the out-breath. Now, if the sand is higher on the waist here, if it's not on the hip bone, I want you to push the sand so it's actually going to be on the left hip. It can kind of hook on the base of that left hip bone, but it's not going to be on the thigh material, so there won't be an effect on the knee itself. So take just a few more breaths here and kind of study this hip. So the arm doesn't have to be featured, but the hip is the feature here. Feel the natural arch in the back. Okay, so we're going to do a self-study of the hip connection into the back of the waist, right, the posterior core. So from this side body and really the thoracic emphasis along with the ribs, what we're going to do is we're going to take this into a hip crossover pose with the left hip dominant. Okay, so since you already have that hip aware of sand, we're going to be adding that, but we have to transition to our back first. Okay, so step by step, hand by hand touch. You're going to lower your hands down and feel the body turn. I would let your sand just kind of push it away off the back. Move the ball so it's next to your sandbag. And then feel when you come up. And then when you start to lift up, I want you to move your bolster over to next to your right thigh, right beside your mat. And then you might want a blanket on top of the bolster for the crossover. You might find that it's not necessary. You could start with it and then take it off if it doesn't work. But let's come on to our back. And the right leg that was just turned out, keep that for a moment. Let's not lose that insight. We're going to lower our head to our blanket. And we're going to grab our belt. It's still somewhere around. Yeah, we can reach for the foot with the belt. Let the left foot, lift up into the belt. That's correct. Hold onto the belt with just the left hand. So you want to find that it's easy to grab a hold. It's not a big strain. Now, here's the deal. Those flexi people. If your leg is, if you're pulling it, it's like, oh, this is easy. I can yank it in. I want you to try to keep it straight up. So you're really working more with this 90 degree, okay? And then as the right leg is resting on my blanket and bolster, my knee is resting open, I'm going to connect to the back of the pelvis. Try to keep that flat. Now the right hip has a different ratio of weight than the left. Because the left hip is pretty weighted with the whole movement of the belt out. So with time, you're going to let the left leg stretch out. Bring the left elbow to the floor. Critical part of this is elbow on the floor. And just survey, not yanking it any further. You know, feel if you can sustain some of these balancing, internally balancing positions, especially if you're flexible, right? So it's like you have to train yourself to go back in time, in practice, and get some of these basic skills down. So the inner thigh might shake, both sides, maybe just the right side. Okay, now without trying to take a full sweep of the leg open, before it really goes to its full range, you're going to move the left leg up, straighten the right leg, and then this time, since we already have the belt, let's just use it. And we'll add in the sand in a moment. But let's take it so our right hand holds the belt, and we cross the left leg over. Now keep in mind, this practice should be reserved for restorative poses, like not for a cardio class or something. So you want to find, okay, we're restoring the joints and hydrating the tissues. Okay, I can do that. I can take care of myself. So when you push into the belt, you're going to bend the left knee, and you're going to slip the belt off the foot, and then place the left leg on the bolster. So now my hip is kind of lifted up and over, like it's excited that it's got something to rest on, the leg is. But I still want to be a little cautious here with my sacrum. So I'm going to put a ball at the sacrum. If you don't have one, you could pass on the idea or use a block, okay? Add a sandbag for this one on your left outer leg. Could be thigh, could be actually on the hip itself. Previously, we had the sand on the hip. So this is a continuation of the study. Yeah, so I like to let the arms fly open, relax, land, let the brain roll to the left so you get the full body support. Kind of navigate through upper, mid to lower body. Right, all areas can receive some benefit here. Upper, mid, the abdominal muscles, the low back, and the kind of the experience of the extremities having all the circulation flowing through them without causing that much dissonance. So just noticing. Head is turned, if possible, to left. Feeling the breath flow and expand the core. And feeling as the breath massages the organs back and forth. Okay, so as we shift our ball, if there is one, and then the sand, I'm going to move my bolster so you can observe the exercise, but if you want to keep your bolster where it's at, that's fine for right now. So when you slide your sand, you're going to slide it to the belly, and you're going to roll onto your back while you're already there, basically. So you're going to place that sand on belly, and when you do, I want you to bring your legs so that they actually go straight up to 90 degrees. Okay, now, as an exercise with kindness to yourself as a priority. Some don't like to use the sand at all and would prefer to be sand free on this one. So I would try it with and without, just compare, do a little comparative posing for yourself. So the key is that I like the sand because it prevents me from moving my legs farther back. So there's no possibility I can use my flexibility to do the exercise. Now I can only use my core strength. So I either can do a little or none. I'm not going to really force it. So my hands are besides my hips. They're basically forward and down, so for some they're farther down. And then as you push down into your arms, kind of feel all arm parts. You're going to move your legs forward. Right now the sand's not going to affect that direction behind you, but it might help your balance and your ability to stay centered on the ground with your back. So you move them forward, so you're almost at 60 degrees. If you're starting to lower down, but your back is peeling off the floor, then it doesn't count. You disqualify yourself. So I want you to feel that little arch at the pelvis. It's tiny, but you can feel the muscles are giving way. So I want you to come back up to 90. Breathe in. Exhale, bring the legs forward. You get to decide on the intensity. Inhale, legs up. If the back is arching so much, you're not really feeling the lower belly muscles, then I don't want you to go quite so far. Okay, so feel what is in control. You might try it without the sandbag just to get some comparison. So I want you to feel that controlling at the low back of the waist, so closer to the lumbars. Okay, now we're going to take it one more time. Okay, and this time as you feel the legs move a little bit forwards, reach the ribs up like you're trying to stretch just with the chest, but your arms can't go out. Open up through the chest. Breathe. Okay, now as you bring your legs back up, bend your knees. And then feel where the knees are in this bending pattern and your feet a little bit apart, okay? In fact, if you have a ball nearby or a block, you can place it between the knees. You're just going to move your feet forward and back. This might be one where you just take the sandbag off. I'm going to leave it on because I feel like I'm getting dependent on this to support my hip flexors. So when your feet go forward and your knees go back in, where do you squeeze? So I want you to squeeze the ball, then bring the feet forward, keep squeezing, and then bring the knees back. So take it 2 more times, feet straight forward and back. Really squeeze. And then as we lower down the feet, you've got a ball or a block between the knees. Feel the feet press down. Take off the sandbag, okay? Stretch your arms overhead. And then as you can enjoy all the work you've done with your core this way, feeling the yielding the benefits, right, for the strength there, now you're lengthening the core. So press down and lift up the hips. If you end up squeezing the ball, so good. But if you don't, it's still okay. All right, so I want you to focus on feeling the heels below the knees and pressing down and up. It's hard to know if it's exactly right, like that your knees aren't over your ankles, that kind of thing. So this one, you probably are going farther forward than you would think you would with your feet, right? So it's really strengthening your glutes. Now, if you haven't come down yet, let's all come down. So arms forward and pelvis down. Recover for a moment. Feel the arch of the spine. Feel that arch back. Inhale. Exhale, arms overhead, hips up. Inhale, arms stay overhead. Exhale, lower the spine. Now this last time you're going to go with this, I want you to let your arms stay beside you, palms open, and then lift up your hips, buttocks up, shoulders back, chest open. Squeeze the ball or the block, really squeeze into it. Yeah, you'll feel your buttock muscles grip at the top corners of them. Okay. So since that zone, like about the very top part of the buttocks that you can feel kind of grip, maybe you'll feel the external rotators as well. But when you lower down the spine, you're going to either guide your knees in and circle the knees, right, with the ball between the knees, or you're going to remove the ball and lift up your hips and place it to the right buttock, the glute, and then massage into that glute. And of course you do both sides, but for those that don't have a ball and have maybe a block, you'll have that being held between the knees and circling the knees and doing a little bit side to side as well. So for those with the ball, switch sides, but really try to mash the ball with your body weight before you move. So you want to have the blend of body weight, then movement to help jostle the skin, the fibers, right, the connective tissue, and release tension. Okay, so those without a ball are going to be on the back knees, a little side to side. Now move the ball aside for all of us so that we don't have that distraction for the moment. Let your knees go side to side. Take your feet out as wide as your sticky mat. If your bolster's kind of in the way, just push it over. It might be a little bit of a distraction. Arms are wide, knees side to side, feet as wide as the mat is really important here. And take some care for the knee angle. If it feels too much, don't go so far. And then as we come back into center, get a feel as you start to straighten that left leg down, you're going to cross the right leg over. And I want us to have, this is going to go a little backwards on this side. We'll do all the three different motions with the joint when we were on our back, but right now we're starting with the sand on the external right thigh. So if you have a sandbag and a ball, you're going to add those to the shape. So the shape influences the tissues, the issues in the tissues. So get a hold of the ball, place it at the sacrum, okay, so base of the spine. Usually it kind of nestles in perfectly in a little contour, a little arch, and just kind of holds snug. Okay. Right arm is open, but important that your head turns to the arm. If the shoulder is stiff, right, and it's hurtful, you can certainly bring the arm down. You can bring it a little farther down so you're comfortable. And then even if your arm doesn't want to go out this far, whatever the height is, try to feel the shoulder roll back and down. That's key, is that the shoulder rolls. The eyes closed. Feel the breath flowing in. As that experience of the lower back gradually feels a reach into the hip joint as well. So these are kind of working in together like as a unit. It's kind of a pose of unity of leg, hip, back, crossover poses from reclining states. You're in a reclining state of America right now. Here we are. This is where we ended up. Okay, so when you're on your back, we're going to keep the back mentality for a few more. So move the ball. You got to get rid of that for this one. and the sand and grab your belt, okay? Lift up the belt to meet the right foot, and as the leg stretches, keep in mind it's straight up. Flex the foot. Maybe your calf is pretty happy about that. Not so sure about that. So when you are holding on, I want you to bring the left knee open to rest on the bolster. So if the bolster is kind of been pushed away, grab it, get it closer. Okay. Use the bolster as a support for your left thigh and then move the right leg out. Okay. So the leg goes straight out from the hip, doesn't go farther up. It could go farther downstream though, as the right elbow is on the floor. This would be an interesting one to use the ball or a block right at the top of the connecting point of the thigh and the leg. This is nice. You might try that. It just kind of brings that responsive texture and kind of helps fan the leg open. So then there's a little less pressure at the flexors. Pretty cool. So when that leg moves out, you may not be using a prop at your thigh, that's okay. Not required. Feel where the sitting bone space actually tries to become a part of the stretch. Some of these are so unfamiliar of your daily movement habit that it's just odd to really study it, but this is a good time for it. But good time as any, huh? So if your leg is kind of getting floppy or it's kind of dropping its structure, do a little micro bend of the right leg. Push into your foot. Okay. Steer the right leg up by pulling with your right hand and then resisting with the right leg straight up. Keep the resistance. Alternate so the left hand holds the belt now, right arm is open. I'm going to stretch my left leg downwards. No, I don't have to. I could keep it bent just where it's at on the bolster and cross it over here. You could do either. They're both accurate. One will just be a little more organic for you to move into what's more natural. Go with that. Okay, a few more moments. Feel intact through your left thigh resting and the right hip getting juiced here. You have to kind of keep it on a medium level, right? So it just stays contained. Hip juicing is contained. Kind of keep it in the container. Now as the spine centers, we're going to bend the right knee. You're going to kind of feel as the knee bends, just slip the belt off. Okay. Now we're going to take our ball aside if you have it there. And we're going to roll to knees in. I want you to actually feel yourself roll to your left, come up, and then place your bolster on top of the blanket behind you. And your blanket could be across at the back edge, so that back top of the bolster has a blanket for sleeping sage. So I'm going to stay with the observing the ball rule, so I'll have it on the inside of my right knee. And as I lean into it, I want you to let the body weight sink down your ribs. So feel how the spine has rotated, how the hands could either be wide or they could hug into the bolster. By now you've had an ability to kind of move through the spine. This is a prep before we come up to all fours. So the dynamics are going to change, but right now, for the next couple moments, you're going to lean into your bolster and just relax in sleeping sage, okay? So head turns right, left side of your head on your blanket on bolster, and rest in. Feel the breath massaging into the organs via the twist, right? So we're having a position where we're squeezing and soaking the organs and creating that awareness between the vertebral column, right? So there's quite a bit of liveliness in the vertebrae here. And then let the belly operate on neutral, just with the breath. Feel it move, guided by the in and exhale. Okay, now when you slide your hands in, you're gonna push and come up, and I want you to take that side sage, that final side sage here, by moving your bolster and crossing the waist. So you might use the ball still on the inside of the leg, and you might add your sandbag to your outer right waist or hip, okay? Now we've done both hip crossovers, so it's not going to be the same reasoning we had it on our hip as we did last time, right? There was a purpose behind that preparation, but now there's no preparatory purpose because we'll be coming up to all fours. So feel where the waist sends length and let the body kind of climb through the rib rafters here. So side reach. If you have a block overhead, use that under your hand. And require of yourself to breathe and fill the body with the breath. Feel the waist. Now, this work we've done on kind of elongating the sides, then the leg and the hips, you know, that takes a lot of repetition to really feel like it is part of your body mechanics. So when we come around to hands and knees, take your time, move your sand aside, take the time here. You're gonna actually move your bolster to the front of your mat, in the very front. Slide a blanket in and toss one to the side and then come up so that you're on your hands and knees and your knees are on a blanket. The blanket could be in a quarter fold. You don't want it to be too bulky because then that kind of connection from the knee to the ankle is actually painful for the knee. So you want to have it just a substantial amount of height, just not put two together, two blankets. So add your blocks to the front area, okay? And let's start with a reaching child's pose. So we'll have our knees on and our hands on the bolster across on the front yard. Have enough distance of your knees from your bolster in the front yard so that you actually really get to feel like you have to strive. It's like a striving child's pose. Child striver. Okay. So as your head lowers down, it feels like child diver, right? Because my head kind of drops center. Now with your forehead down, feel the reach of the arms. Okay, feel the back landscape, that inner environment motion. And now as you slide your hands down, we'll get right into this alternating arm reach. So scoot your knees into touching. Stretch your left leg back and up and bring your right hand to the bolster. Okay, so when you feel the reach of the left heel back, okay, you're going to lower the knee down and you're going to come back, reaching your hips back. And simply alternate left hand forward, right leg back. And then alternate reaching the hips back. Right hand forward, left leg back. It is a repetitious cycle of connecting the upper and lower body, but give it a few more moments. If the knees close together is too much on knee energy, you can separate the knees a little bit, but take it 2 more times, however many cycles you've gone through, alternating leg and arm. Feel where you reach back into the leg that's lifting. And then as you hook your toes under, whatever leg that is, we'll all end up with 2 of them behind reaching. We'll place both hands down and we'll lift up that opposite leg so you have both legs stretching back. So you're in an upright push-up position. And then bend your knees and walk your feet a little bit forward and maybe your hands a little bit back. And then as you experience this inversion, let the weight of your head stretch your spine. Hey, that's a concept, huh? That's an ability to help your circulation. Let the head lowering down stretch your spine. So you can feel your knees bending. You can feel your hips ascend a little bit. And try pumping the legs. Try alternating bending the knees and feeling that reach back into your calves. Give it a few moments. We're going to stay with this reality of stretching the legs deeper. So when the legs reach back, you have an option to walk your hands back to this forward bend or come back to child's pose if it just doesn't seem right today. So those that are comfortable coming back, walk your hands back, maybe your feet forward as well, and establish the weight into your heels. And then just allow your spine to descend with the weight of your head helping. And let's bring our hands to hold the elbows and feeling as the weight of the hold of the elbows increases that flexibility of your spine. So as that flexibility increases, part of that practice is timing, pacing your breath, using time to shift the circulation internally. And I would take the feet out a little wider. So take a little wider stance. We'll do 2 wide stances today with circulation to the brain. This is the first one. So let the spine lengthen a few more moments. Now get every last little space of the neck to relax. And then release the hold of the elbows. Okay. Feel where the knees are softening. Feel that whole crease at the knees. And then when you walk your hands on forward, I want you to reach the knees down and then move your bolster lengthwise under the torso. And reach forward on top of the bolster, lie onto that, and lower down the waist and the elbows below the shoulders. And get a feel here when the elbows are down and the belly centers. Kind of visualize as if you had a sandbag on the lower back. Pass on the whole energy to get that there. But feel that there is an actual arch in the back here. And the elbows press down. Okay. So as you slide your hands back and they're under the shoulders, you're going to reach out wide through your fingers. Yep. And then as you start to lift up dog, you're going to press down wide through the hands. Try to really make a wide hand print into your mat as you lift up the front of the body. Lift up the core, stretch the core well. Coordinate the opportunity to lengthen the front. And if it feels relatively okay with your back, we'll repeat it. But first, we'll strengthen in our back. So we'll bend the elbows by the sides. And I want you to hover for a moment, but you are pushing into the bolster. So it's a restorative arm strengthener, right? You have the idea all set with your arms. It's just, you can keep your alignment fresh. So roll the shoulders back, feel the tops of the feet. They don't have to do anything arduous, but just feel them. And then as you feel the tailbone motioning back, you're going to feel the arch of the spine. I would pause where you first start to feel the layer of connection from the low spine to the space behind your back, behind your heart. Right? That's like that whole thoracic area that can get kind of murky space. How do I move it? And then we'll slide the hands back and we'll come up for that support in that murky space to cat pose. Round your back, chin to chest. Feel the back muscles reaching. Feel the natural arch through the spine. And step the right foot out to the top right corner of your mat. Use your blocks under your hands so that you can continue the arch of the spine naturally. Right? If you force your elbows down onto the bolster and you find you just want to use less props because it's a bother, you might rethink that pattern. And it kind of drags the left quadricep a little bit along. But it's like you want to feel this kind of gallant reach with the legs, like it's really lengthened. Yeah. Gecko pose. So really lengthen, reach the rib center and the heart up towards the sun. You're feeling that hydration of breath. And now when you do switch sides, try to keep it so that the hip flexor quarters, right, the very upper part of the thigh zone, into the waistband. Just try to let that space feel like it's continuing to lengthen, even in between the sides. How am I going to do that? So as I come back to kind of lean my hips back, I'm going to keep it so I'm still reaching. So I'm kind of moving through up dog a little bit between the sides. So right leg back, left foot steps out to the top left, little top-ish. It's actually just kind of out from my shoulder is how far my foot is going, my left shoulder. And it might reach that far for you, it might be a little back. Accepting is important here, acceptance. So when my thigh lengthens, work the waist forward, feel the elasticity of the lungs in this arch. This is a back bending pose, so the lungs have to create a little more elasticity. Breathing and centering. Start to connect to the hardware of the pelvic, the front of the pelvis, kind of the hardware of the psoas muscle, kind of that whole strip of circulation into the quadricep. So as we kind of move that band, kind of that diaphragmatic band here, I want you to start to move back a little bit and then turn your bolster across your mat so it's horizontal, straight across. Same pattern as your blanket likely. And then walk the left foot in between your blocks. And then feel that band. You're going to lift the right knee up. And you're going to try to let both legs be directionally, the feet are parallel to the front of your mat. But when you're here in this lunge, try to reach your right heel back. And I want you to feel the left knee move forward. So it's above the ankle, just above the ankle. Keep the right heel stretching back. Keep it reaching back. Feel the flexibility of the foot. Now the back heel is going to turn out. So my back foot is pushing to the floor. toes are faced towards you, okay? So the left foot forward, the right foot, turn the toes in a little bit so the heels are in the same track. And then stack up that block beside your left foot so it's higher up, outside of the foot. Bend the left knee, of course, it's already bending, but be sure that it keeps that condition of moving towards the second toe, not over the toes by any means, but it's not swerving in. So as the right arm stretches fully up, feel the right buttock stretch down towards the right heel and try to restore the balance here in your core. So fundamentally open that right side of the chest. You don't have to look towards the screen or up towards the sky. You could look down to your left foot. So feel what's best for your neck. But consider establishing your strength meter in this position. Really feel that left knee above the ankle. Breathe. Reach the right side of the rib cage up, stretch the right arm over the side of the face. Continue, 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 all the way down with the right hand to the block. And then what we'll do is we'll turn to our right. So you're going to turn the left foot flush towards the right. And then we're going to all go towards a wide stance. So you're in a standing, well, I hope you're standing. You're halfway standing. You have your toes in, your heels out, but you're in a wide stance. It's like a wide downward dog. Or instead of downward dog, you go wide downward dog. I'll do this, drinking giraffe. So we're in this pattern with our hands, this time under our shoulders. It's not so flexy in the spine, it's a little more strength. So feel the toes in, the heels out. Okay, this will take a little field trip for us. So some of you might end up kind of stepping up and moving around, but you're going to need to get your belt, okay? So carefully sneak a reach to your belt. Okay, bend your knees, take your belt, come up just the right amount of lift that you need. Not too much, not too little. And then hold your belt behind you, palms facing forwards. Okay. Now, advance your chances. Feel your feet parallel. Bend your knees. Gently lift up the core and the chest opens. So I want you to get a feel that your arms are back. Just straight back, palms open. So obviously my hands, the palms face towards the front. The palms aren't open, but they face towards the front. They're gripping the belt. Okay, now as you lift up the gaze towards the ceiling, so lift up, reach the chest forward, keep going with it. And the final stretch here. So forward motion, feel the arms open. And then as you start to go deeper into both the arms and the leg stretch, you're going to lower head downwards and keep the arms going forwards. Now, caution for hyperextenders, right? If your knees are pushing back, micro bend your knees. Let your head lower down. Feel the arms move back and over. And now drop your belt. Hold the legs for a mini moment. Feel your knees bending. Let your brain lower down. If you're really close to the bolster and you're touching it, great. If you're too close to the bolster, scoot your body a little bit over to the side so you don't have, you can go all the way with your stretch. Okay, now ribs forward, hands on blocks. Take it over to your left foot again, so you're back forward, and you're going to step your right foot, once you get there, to the left foot, and then switch sides. Left foot back, reach back into that left heel. Try to stay with the full lunge, so the right knee above the ankle. You certainly could place your blocks higher here, so if you feel like you want to have a little bit more core, kind of neutralize the center of the body, reaching the ribs a little forward, that might be useful for you. But the key is to work on that kind of elasticity of the calf, the back left heel reaching to the floor. Foot's parallel for the moment. So master the blend of bending your right knee and then pivot the back heel. Just be a little curious about this. The right knee is moving just above the ankle, so it stays there. Now, does it have option to kind of slide and glide around? I would try to keep it so that you're building around the muscle, right? You're building into the muscle, so you're strengthening the bone. So keep it kind of right on task. So when you put your right hand on the block, your back foot's turned out, you're going to stretch your left arm up and try to convey to your right leg you'd like it to stay above the ankle. You could take a wide stance and then go there, lift your left arm up and stretch through the shoulder opening and strengthen your lower shoulder here. But feel how much weight you're bearing into that block. So I want you to try to use your core muscles. So the importance here is that you're correlating and your core is turning, your arm is reaching. And you have that awareness through the midsection. So don't take that away from your pose. It's that midsectional power. So the left arm stretches up. I think I went overhead too fast there. So straight up and then reach over the left side of the face. Feel the lunge, careful of the knee joint, so it's just above the ankle towards the second toe. And then as that left hand sweeps down to the block, you're going to pivot the back heel up and then stretch back into that left heel and lower down your blocks. Lower down your lunge on that left thigh. And walk your right foot over to pigeon pose with the right knee turned out. I would hope it would turn out for this pose. Feel where the bolster is under the bulk of your rear. Yeah, you want to feel like, yep, it's kind of bulky right under my rear with the bolster. So add some bulk. Okay. So we'll take this with more of a high pigeon pose today. You have the arch of the spine. And if it doesn't hurt into your back, try this to strengthen into your back. Strengthen your low back and the core body in the front, but mostly the posterior core zone. The arms will feel like they're working here, so it feels like you have this endurance activity going on. If you get kind of tired, you want to lower down, you can bring your elbows down on your blocks or the floor, of course. But some of us might stay up with it. And now feel where that right thigh is kind of opening on that inner vein of the leg, the adductor. Not just a quad stretch in the back, it's the whole front leg is getting the work. Okay, so as I change sides, I'm going to try to keep my blocks either under my hands to swing to the second side, or I might put my hands on the floor and kind of help myself over to my left pigeon. So you can do either. You might find that you use your blocks, you might find that you basically come up to sitting, and then you swing the right leg back. And if you kind of fall off of your bolster a little bit, just try to get back on. Right leg stretches back. That's a little intense, right? Through the back muscles of the hip to stay mobile here. So not an area you usually spend a lot of time on, right? All fours and positions from all fours. So practicing perfection isn't essential here, right? See if you can find ways that you move around it. One side, your knee might be kind of buoyant and the other knee is dropped down. It's conditions of that side of the spine and the hip. It's interesting if you still have interest, right, at this point in the class of studying that, but feel where that knee is out Hopefully it's not out in the knee, but where it's turning open. And with that arch of the spine, what we're going to do is we're going to shift our weight into our left buttock. And then as you swing the right leg forward, take a mini hip stretch here. So I want you to keep the, actually you might move the blanket a little bit back already. That could be helpful. Okay. So this may not seem like a hip stretch in the beginning, but a very basic seated, elementary seated twist is working on the hip. So we'll have our left leg straight. We'll have our right leg crossed over our left leg. And then I'm going to add a block on top of my bolster behind. You might not, my blanket, sorry, you might not need the block on top. Your arm might be long enough to touch the blanket. But as you stretch forward into your left foot, push, and then reach your right hand back to that prop and left arm out to the right side of the leg and rotate. We're kind of coming full circle in the session right now. So when you turn through the waist, feel the torso. And feel the arm resistance against that right leg. And work with the hip. So if you're not really feeling an integration of the hip, we'll get there, right? This is kind of the basics. Most of us are used to doing this twist with our lower leg bending, and it's a little more bendy of an option. But we're trying to keep it kind of prim and proper. Okay, so we have that lift. We're kind of marking all the important angles, kind of liberating the spine and the brain up. Okay, now as you come back forward, you're going to let that right leg stretch the foot forward, cross the legs. So you're in a simple cross-legged pose, not so much a crisscross, but cross-legged, simply. And then take a block. In fact, let's take both of them forward to the front without sand on your hip. Just kind of see what's going on without adding weight to your bones. Walk the blocks to the top left corner of your space. Feel as you lean your body weight down towards the floor. So you feel the body kind of sink the upper body downwards. And as you come back forwards and center, come back up through center, and I want you to switch it. So right leg goes forward, it's already set. Left leg crosses over right. Simply turn, add your block behind you on the blanket if you like. Hook the right elbow to the left outer leg and feel the band of the waist widen, kind of in that mid quarters towards the shelf right below the back of your heart. Really feel that hydrate in that space. It's pretty good to let that space open and also to pin the body so that you're feeling that squeezing of the vital organs, kind of that rinsing, kind of soaking, squeezing and soaking the organs, and then as you rinse that space, right, fresh blood flows in when you get out of the twist. So right now you're still kind of steeping and marinating in the organs with the twist. And now as you release the pressure with your right arm, take both blocks forward, left foot crosses in front of right knee, keep it simple. blocks up high in front of you. Door 1 is there forward and door 2 they're to the right. You choose. Right before we go to legs up. So get a feeling here that you're kind of working with the bending parts of the legs, the hip. It's not such a place where you feel a lot of bending, but you're feeling like you're working with resistance in that zone, and which connects to the lower back. And most interestingly, the knee. So when I bring the blocks forwards, then a moment here, I'm going to bow forward into it. And as we come back to invert the body, I want you to have your blocks to the sides, your blankets all the way back. And then grab your sandbag. Make sure your ball is nearby, okay? Take the legs so they uncross and have your feet so they're a little closer than hips distance, parallel in the front mat. And then as you guide yourself back, have sand on your center. Okay, so it's like right on in your lap. You've got sand in your lap. Okay. So my focus as I lean back is that my pelvis is on the bolster, the back of my pelvis. And as I lower back, I'm going to bring my knees up right away and grab my blanket and tuck it under my head. And you might tuck it higher up than I do. You might place it right next to your shoulder. Some people prefer that. So feel what's kind of the magical support for you. If you can call it magic. Okay, then the sand goes to the soles. Give it a try. Really try to get your sand on your feet. Have just the right amount of space, not too much. You don't want the sand to fall on you. And then as your legs are elevated, the situation around the knee and the back of the knee, you might be able to feel that kind of a happiness there after the last several poses. They've been very bent. Pigeon, seated twist, a lot of creasing in the joint, which is something we want to influence, right? The circulation, the blood flow around the joint, but we also need recovery, right? So that area gets a little bit more flexibility and enhances the circulation in these, through the lymph and the groins. That's another part of it. That's a little bit more of the physiological essentials. So as the legs are up and you just simply reverse the way gravity flows through the body. That's all we're up to here. And flush the legs. Feel the flush, awareness in the legs. Just notice it's different. What's different about the circulation when you're upside down? Right? Each time you invert, you rest your organs from gravity's constant pull. And I don't know if you register that necessarily when you're posturing, organ sensation. So set it up for a good organ circulatory experience. You want the legs to be straight up, not over the chest or over your head. You want to feel like it's in that sweet spot. So the belly organs feel that massage with the belly lifting and lowering. There's nothing that's inhibiting that. If the legs are overhead, it might kind of grip the belly where it kind of grabs and it twangs and tightens. So you want it to be at that sweet spot, just at that 90 degree. Really important. Okay, so arms are in cactus for a few more moments. Give the body the necessary amount of time so gravity can actually return the blood from the extremities back to the vital organs. Basically, it's soothing for the organs. It's resting for them compared to their daily experience, being dragged downwards. So just enjoy that experience of kind of the unknown from the inversion too. Feel the calves flexing the feet. I think the feet flex and then the calves are felt first. Feel the natural arch through the spine. And I want you to press the tailbone to the bolster. And then as you bend your knees, feel the tailbone press. And then as you soften, and you make it more of a leg press now, so the thighs feel like they're over the ribs and moving down to the ribs. Okay, now you can either move your sand overhead, you can slide it carefully off to your side, grasp onto your block or ball, place it center of the knees, squeeze into it, bring the legs back to that right angle, the knees forward, the feet forward of the knees, and then let the legs move side to side with awareness. So I'm not trying to just flop them over. I have some specified structure to it. I'm squeezing the ball or the block, and as I move my knees over to the side in this elevated reclining twist, I'm actually trying to keep it pretty easy on my back. So it's really the lumbar is centered and the knees are going side to side. Head can be centered right in the middle or turning with the opposite direction of the knees. Okay, now one more round. Okay, come back into center, and then as your knees draw in, you're going to move the ball, and then casually, hands to the bolster, squeeze the knees to the chest. If you want to kick your feet up, go for it. Anything goes for this moment. However, you're going to monitor moving the bolster forward. So we're going to go into a cycle of getting ourselves to get our legs up one more time, but on a lot of height. So take a moment where you hold the back of your legs, your spine flat, rock a little side to side. Just like we were just doing with the ball, but no ball, and you can really feel more of the back touching and supported by the floor. So guide yourself to this position for a few moments. We fundamentally want to feel our back kind of draped into the floor when we're in our final pose. I want you to feel that squeeze of the knees in, however is comfortable for your knee joints. So the back of the legs are below the knees. I like to pull a little deeper. Okay, now before we get the legs up, grab your belt, place it, reach it to the feet, place it around the balls of the feet, and push your feet straight up. So I want you to bring the feet about hips distance, not any farther out. And flex the feet. Well, they got to flex with the belt around them. It's kind of promoting flexing. So you're going to pull, really pull hard on the belt. Pull, pull, pull. And then bring your elbows close in by your sides. Now, if you can bring your elbows to the floor, do it. Slide your hands down the belt, touch the floor with your elbows, do it. Okay, so then your shoulders are back, the spine is flat. Okay, it's pretty flat for this one. Flex, pull, pull, pull. Okay, bend your knees, take your belt off. Your feet might feel a little tingly from it. That's a good prep for coming up. Roll, come up, or roll to the side to come up to sitting. And then add your blocks forward and place your bolster on top of your blocks. They're the second setting, right? They could be higher up for those that have longer legs. You might have your blocks at the third tier. And then you add your blanket, probably in a roll. So you have a little bit more height than if it was flat. Have a little bit more height, okay? So finally, right, we get the experience of feeling the legs up without conditions of centering, right? It's easy does it here. So feel your legs with some separation. And then as you guide your spine and elbows down, I want you to feel your arms so that they're reaching back to the elbows to start. This is a hardship on your shoulders, you pass. And if you're reaching back before you add any sand possibilities, if you like sand on your shins, you should add that, that's for certain. If you like sand on your ribs, we'll add it in a second here. Just establish the shoulders. Now add your sand. If you have it nearby, it's overhead for some of you probably. Place it across the ribs gently. The ribs will absorb that pretty quickly. It's kind of like it gives up and goes, okay. Wake up the lungs. All right. Just let the spine rest into its space and let what connects to your spine, the shoulders, span directly and relaxably out. So the arms are easy, relaxed by the sides. Close or a little bit out, you choose. Let your heels completely drop so they're not trying to push up. And gather your attention on the even rhythm of your breath. Just giving yourself the opportunity to process and absorb this practice today. And setting your internal environment, steering it towards wellness. Even if it was already well, there's always question marks inside. So feeling not just the chemistry or just the wellness factor that you're okay, but feeling the structure supported. Deep, slow breath for a count of 4. Exhaling out for a count of 5. So with a few more of those, letting the time experience be useful right now for your inside and for how you respond externally. Start to circle your feet outward. So the feet go from maybe pointing a little in and they span, focusing outwards. You might lightly touch the toes, toe crossing. Rest your eyes as often as you can. Nothing too exciting coming up. And then feel your feet relaxed. Align your focus. Now if you have sand on your ribs, you are using that for weight training for the lungs. So I want you to take a deep breath with the sand, not trying to force your hand and push it more intensely, but you know, just kind of feel that your ribs actually move up with the resistance. And they so happily lower down because that's the easier place is the exhale when you have sand on you. So just move the sand off. Sand-aid gets taken off. Okay, feeling if the waist is like just a little lighter. It's good. That's the benefit of the sandbag, right? You take it off, it feels like a little bit, even just sensation of lightness and less. And then as you move your feet to the bolster blanket ledge, feel the spine, enjoy the stretch. And then hold on the back of the legs, reach with your hands. Notice all these parts that are supporting simply the spine. So today's class really was focusing on the spine awareness and easing in our spine, taking good care of the back. So with that back care note, rock a little side to side, and then moment to moment, you're going to roll to one side and come up. Center your spine up from a blanket or any little sitting you want to be on, a cushion or nothing. Cross the legs to what's the most off leg crossing that you have done. Roll your shoulders up, back, down. Really get a feel of that motion of the shoulders and lift up your hands. And let's bow our head down to our heart and center there. Inhale together and exhales, bowing into your heart. In gratitude, namaste. Okay. I hope that felt good.